part 5 and the final part to my Barn and Horses pyramid lamp. I wanted to touch base on letting everybody, or reminding everybody, to make sure your pyramid is level so that it doesn't set things wonky on you and mess up your whole scheme. So again, make sure it's level. Here I had attached trees to all 4 corners of the piece I made with the fence and the garden, so it would help me be able to gauge when I can set it in there, and then I can use it just to rest on there. I did use a little piece of tape here just to kind of help bring that one piece up a little bit. It was kind of leaning forward a little, or backwards a little. And then before I pour it, I wanted to make sure that I didn't pour too far with the resin for my next pieces that are going in. So I was just gauging right here. And I poured to almost to the bottom of that tree. And that was a good gauge for me. It worked out pretty good. And here I'm just pre-treating all of my trees. I had pre-treated the barn previously. And ironically, I forgot to pre-treat the plants from my garden. So you'll see that I wound up getting bubbles. So I just continue to pre-treat the cardboard and the trees. I remembered everything, but still got bubbles. And then here I poured it to almost to the bottom of that red tree in the corner. That's where I had gauged the horses, which is the next level. I did wind up here, I started gluing. I used my UV glue because they just wouldn't stay level. And checking where to pour it up to. So the next pour is going to come up to the top of the fence. So when I put in the next piece, it will be, I'll be able to, it'll be level. The ground will be level with everything else. See? So I did the same thing with these guys. They didn't want to stay level either. They were almost there, not quite. Everybody's at different heights, I guess. But I glued them on. And here I'm pouring the layer just until where the sand is, just until the top of the sand. And I poured it slowly so that I knew when to stop, because I need the next layer to be a very thin layer. So you'll see I actually pour a little bit on, and then I use a paintbrush and I spread it around because I just wanted it thin. I needed control because I'm going to be putting a pond in there, and where the pond is also going to be where the light base shines through, which is kind of at the center of the piece. So I didn't want it to overflow or misshape anything. I wanted it to be very perfect, actually. However, I should have mixed the static grass in with the resin because it would have reduced bubbles. I did wind up getting some micro bubbles along the grass, but it really wasn't too bad. But they're just tiny little bubbles that I could do without. I'd rather not see them in my pieces, but it is resin. So I just keep spreading out the resin here to prepare the piece for sprinkling the static grass over top of it. So I found it easy just to kind of dump the little piles of the static grass over top, and then use a brush and kind of sweep it around over the resin while the resin was still wet, so that it could glue it to the scene. This worked best for me. It did work okay for me. It gave me the control I was looking for so that I could leave the space for the pond. So you can use your judgment when you see the piece at the end. I didn't mind the bubbles too much, but at the same time I would rather not have them. So next time, like I said, I'm gonna try something different by mixing it in there. And here I'm just cleaning the resin and the static grass away from the center. So when I pour my layer for the pond, it isn't in there. But I am painting little lotus flowers and lily pads in the pond, give it more of an authentic pond appearance, a habitat for frogs and birds. There is a bird playing with the kids, almost chasing them away from this pond, or the kids trying to mimic them or get them away from the pond. So I thought I'd just do the little lily pads in there. Just another little touch. So here I mixed, as you can see, the sand to be very thick, because I spread it out incredibly thin. I do not want this to be very thick, so it's just easiest for me to push it around and spread it out thin. It does get sticky, it sticks to your fingers. Just wipe it off and keep trying some more. It will spread out, and it looks really good when it's done. See, nice and smooth. And then I poured some green and blue for the pond layer, and this is the final piece. You can see some micro bubbles right around the peak of the barn. That is because that was an area that I poured too deep, and I wound up getting a flash cure layer, and before it fully cured I decided to pop it out of there, and because it was really distorting the image and I did not want that. So this poured it. It did fix it way better than what it was, but you can still kind of see like a residue or bubbles where it just forced the bubbles on there, because it did cure really fast. But it still looks pretty good. These are the mistakes that I made. I want you all to see, so that you're learning alongside me on this. And I really hope that you like the piece. Overall, I am happy with it. I try so hard to reduce bubbles and reduce mistakes, but it is resin and it is handmade, and it does, it is going to have some flaws. My customer was still incredibly happy with it. She loved it. So I'm happy that she's happy. That's all that matters to me.